So she sat down, looked me straight in the face and said, "Fix me," like a scared rabbit. For me, the first step is to take a breath and to remind myself of two aspects of listening. One is, it is an honor. And the second is to remind myself that I'm the mirror, that there is nothing to fix. This is a lovable, capable person in front of me. I'm going to say that again. This is a lovable, capable person in front of me, and I am prepared to mirror that. I know that that may be a stretch when somebody is yelling at you, screaming at you, blaming you, criticizing you. And if you can take the upper road, take a breath and remind yourself that at the core, here is a lovable person. They were lovable when they came into the world as a baby, and they still are. You may not use some of these steps, and there may be other times where you need to be very tender and very gentle. And other times you may be working very hard to come to an agreement when there's conflict involved. So Stephen Covey, in his very wonderful, well-known bestseller, I understand that it sold as many copies as the Bible, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of his 7 habits is this: seek first to understand. And this word understand is going to come up a number of times. We don't actually understand where people are coming from, but it is in the seeking that typically people feel seen, heard, and acknowledged. And if we're lucky in intimate relationships, they feel loved. Here are very quickly the benefits of effective listening. Some of the benefits are it increases relationship trust and rapport. It can reduce conflict and increase mutually acceptable solutions. Helps reduce distress, anxiety, and depression. Improves productivity of teams and coworkers when they feel heard. Supports problem solving and informed decision making with relevant information. Enhances leadership. Leadership has all these other qualities of supporting problem solving and building trust. And I love this particular point, number 7. People ask, what is compassion? What is the difference between compassion and empathy? And you will get a sense of the difference between compassion and empathy in this session. And it creates cultural sensitivity and respect when you check that you don't make assumptions. True listening puts assumptions aside, and that's leading us into the top 6 barriers to effective listening. Some of the barriers to listening are distractions. It's very difficult to focus and listen if you have to get dinner on the table, or your baby is screaming, or the phone is ringing. Fortunately, with cell phones now, we can turn them to mute. So you want to minimize distractions. Preconceived notions and biases and assumptions. You want to not have a sense that you know this person really, really deeply. Even if you're married to them for 55 years, like I have with my hubby, he still astounds me with saying something that I had no idea he was thinking. Like just last week, he said, "Oh, I'm thinking about putting my trailer up on Kijiji for sale." Well, he loves his trailer. He loves going camping. Oh, I went, "Oh, wow." And then I asked an opening question. It's not really a question, but I'll share that with you later. Oh, I might as well tell you right now. It's tell me more about that. Tell me more about that. That if you put a sign up in front of your brain, or you took a piece of paper and wrote it up and plastered it on your computer when you're doing a Zoom call, and tell me more about that is the most brilliant line that I ever learned to say. Number 3 is lack of empathy. not knowing how to deepen the listening, but you're going to have a leg up on that. And rapid response or interrupting. Now, there is a place for interrupting in dynamic, fun conversations. I was a TEDx speaker coach for the linguistic expert Julie Dedvey, and she said, interrupting allows for a dynamic conversation. Otherwise, it's a flat monologue. But when we're doing respectful listening, we want to minimize the interrupting. Unless you are skilled and know why you are interrupting. And I'll again give you some tools of when to do that interrupting. And emotional dysregulation. If you are all wrapped up or triggered by your own emotions and your prefrontal cortex does not allow you to make meaningful connection, that is not a good time to listen. Practice saying a line, I'll be available to listen, and then you decide how long it's going to take you to get yourself calmed down. And maybe you need to find somebody to listen to you if you are emotionally dysregulated. When people are triggered into their distress, perhaps their trauma, that is when they require very gentle, very focused listening. And if you're in that state, do not try it. Put listening to the side and go and take care of yourself first. And having a personal agenda. Sometimes people, it appears they're trying to engage you in offering listening when actually they're wanting you to agree to something that they want you to do or think or say. So if you're really going to do respectful, effective listening and build relationships, again, I'll quote Stephen Covey, first seek to understand before you push your agenda of what you want to happen. Being present for effective listening. So I'm going to go back to what I described before as what I do in my mindset is to tell myself what an honor that somebody is presenting themselves in a vulnerable way to me. And then the second mindset is to see them as not needing fixing, but lovable and capable. And then to affirm that in whatever window I can. But they're not able to take in what I'm reflecting until their prefrontal cortex is back intact. Back intact. That's a tongue twister. So we want the listening helps people to settle down and be seen and heard and bring them to the present moment. Sometimes people don't even know what they're saying when they are emotionally dysregulated. So listening is about being present, not just about being quiet. And we'll explore what that means. Typically means to make a commitment to be listening and to indicate that you are listening. First is the concept of seeking first to understand, which again, we're back to Stephen Covey's. Seeking to understand. So I don't understand. They don't often understand. So the two of us are unraveling a puzzle or sticking in the pieces of a puzzle together. And trying as the speaker speaks to allow your body, which is your emotional vessel, to follow along, not only with the thoughts and words, but the emotions. So if you notice something coming up in you, but again, you want to be careful that you're containing your emotions and you are not then joining them in an emotional trigger. It is very interesting sometimes to see one person talking, and they're talking about their experience, and the other one gets triggered into some of their emotional baggage. And this actually happened to me about 3 weeks ago with some women friends. And oh my goodness, I ended up taking over the conversation and shutting down my friend. And then we did relationship repair because I got triggered. And here I am in my late 70s. I'm still learning what my triggers are. And I'll come back to that idea of emotional triggers in a little bit. Second is to be able to be centered, grounded, and present with focus and creativity, curiosity. You want to be kind of creative in the way that you join them with emotions and do an exploration. I'll explain that a little bit more too. But how do you get centered? If you're not centered in self, where are you really? You know, so you want to be in the room. You want to be able to notice the colors. You're noticing and you're being present. You're not planning what's for supper, and you're not worrying about what happened yesterday when your daughter fell on the sidewalk and you're wondering whether she has a broken arm. Actually happened to me recently. Okay, except it was a broken leg. Oh, gosh. Okay, the intention to demonstrate care and compassion. And this is difficult again if you've got somebody who's ranting and raving and pointing at you and blaming and it's all your fault and you should have known better, etc. So those are the times to listen. And if you can show care and compassion, then you're ready. So what is active listening? Here is one way to do it. Nodding your head. Now, sometimes listening happens over the phone, and I would say, in that case, I've spent up to an hour going, oh, ah. So active listening and letting people know that you're listening is also open. It's got to do with open postures, got head nodding, soft eyes, but grunts and groans. Letting people know you are paying attention. And it's kind of like a rhythm. It's sort of like you're dancing with this person, except they're the lead. They are the lead of the rhythm. Listening is an attitude of the heart, a genuine desire to be with another, which both attracts and heals. You see, many people have not really felt that they were really seen, really heard, nor acknowledged, that their thoughts weren't acknowledged, and even deeper, that their feelings that tell them everything about who they are and what's important to them has not been acknowledged. You may meet a 60-year-old who's never felt that they were acknowledged, and that's what the healing is, or the healing element of it. So commit to offering an emotionally safe environment. Now, what does that mean? I remember sitting on a sidewalk with all kinds of traffic and bicycles and people walking the sidewalk, sitting down with somebody who was distraught, just sat there. And that was the best we could do in that environment, was to sit and at least have grounded that person's behind their buttocks. And I just said, may I touch you? And put my hand on that person's back. Ideally, you have a space, something like mine here, that's very private, soundproof. So an emotionally safe space starts with physical safety. Do you like hugs? If they cross their arms and say no, you don't touch them. So you check and be very respectful. That's what creates an emotionally safe environment. You make it safe for them to choose. Many people grow up in a childhood where there was no choice, no power, no control. Second is use open body language. If I'm sitting like this, listening to somebody, even though I might be cold, I sometimes force myself. Do not assume body language. Do not assume body language. Check with body language. You see somebody arms crossed like this, you might say, are you cold? Would you like a blanket? And I might put a blanket around my client or on their lap, right? But this is a very vulnerable part of the body. All animals show trust when they show you their belly and their chest, whether it's a cat, dog, or a human being. So opening up like this is as sort of a subtle message that I too am willing to be vulnerable with you. And gentle eye contact, no piercing in the eyes. Sometimes looking around the cheek is a good place. And gentle eyes, not piercing. Like what happens for many people have piercing eyes growing up when somebody was angry with them. And yes, let them know you're listening. But it also helps shift your brain. I'm listening. Thank you for asking. Okay, I'm here. And my favorite, tell me more. So she's saying, fix me. Oh, wow, tell me more. When you say, tell me more, that part of you that you wanted to know more about, that you actually wanted to ask a question about, you can say, tell me more about wanting to be fixed. Or tell me more. I'll tell you why we avoid questions. That might be useful. Questions are inviting the prefrontal cortex to take over and be logical. And when people are emotionally dysregulated or feeling overwhelmed with emotions or saying basically, I want to talk about my feelings because I'm trying to sort out what I want because feelings tell me what I truly want. We want to treat it like a baby crying, and asking a question moves the brain into the prefrontal cortex and logic to the different part of the brain. Okay, hope that's helpful. So use tell me more about the part where you want to understand more. And there is a place for questions, no doubt. Add empathetic listening. And empathetic listening, remember, empathetic listening demonstrates compassion. And this is where we guess. We don't know what somebody else is feeling, but we're guessing. Write down, if it works for you, key phrases. So, for example, my client, tell me more about wanting to be fixed. Tell me more about that. So you catch key phrases of self-talk that's not supporting that person effectively, not supporting them in the direction that they want to go. And guess the speaker's feelings. Now, the dilemma here is that culturally, we are pretty uneducated in the realm of emotions and feelings. Emotions are the sensations that come up in our body, our gut, in our stomach that tells us that there's something off, or tightness in our stomach that says there's danger here, there's fear here, or the breathing changes, or my heart hurts, or my shoulders get tight. That's what an emotion is. It's the bodily sensation, and feelings are the words that we use to describe what's going on internally. So we can say, sounds like you feel, sounds like we're guessing. Matt, I imagine you feel, I'm guessing again. I see tears. And here's a question, might you feel hurt? I want to be careful how I word that. I want to go, might you feel hurt? I am not really pushing for a long explanation. I just want maybe a nod of the head. And here is the pure emotional feeling system, the baby, and then we get it programmed out of us. So I just want you to guess what this is my grandson, Eric. It's an old photo because he's 20 years old. Yeah, just I'm feeding him lunch. Just guess what he's feeling. Here we have all these faces that tell us, and we know how to attend to it. We know when he's sad, or when he's afraid, or when he's frustrated, or when he's scared, when he's angry, and when he's happy, and happy as I got what I want, Grandma. Yeah. So if emotions and feelings are a mystery to you, they're not a thought. If I say, I feel that my mother-in-law doesn't like me, that's merely a thought. Remember, emotions are grounded in the body. Please get yourself an emotion poster, a feeling poster, And if you don't have one you like, please, I'll give you my email address. It's in the session guide, and I'll give it to you at the end. Use one of these. I recommend all families have these posted in their home so they can say, oh, well, it sounds like you're feeling sad today. Oh, okay. That's really, really important to have some sense of what feelings and emotions are all about. Another option in listening, and this is not done when anybody is sharing their emotions, is later, much later, is to share a situation that you too are human. So this little story I told you about getting triggered when I have some women friends over is trying to normalize for you if you get triggered and can't listen or need to do a relationship repair. It allows that person to know that they're not alone, and sometimes minimizes any sense of guilt that they have about their behaviors. But again, you don't want to do a one-up. Oh, you think you did it bad or you feel guilty, let me tell you about me. It's not that. It's in service of, and it's very brief. It doesn't go into detail and take over the conversation.